It is time to talk turkey. All right, we have Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Yes.
Making today, Wednesday, the day leading up to it, a pretty big travel day.
Busiest days for us, I feel like, towards the end of the year.
I got to tell you, this is such a thrill. All right, Craig Moeller, meteorologist, and my colleague, my traffic guru, all things knowledgeable when it comes to travel, Bethany Reese.
Yeah.
So you came in this morning, okay, on daybreak, and at 4:30 in the morning, things were already popping.
Yeah, when I sat down and started to really look at the computer at 4, there were 6 accidents already this morning. And now most of that is because you were saying earlier we had that squall kind of come through early right before the show started.
We had a line very intense. It wasn't severe, but it doesn't have to be severe to wreak havoc. And what happened, this line came through. There's maybe 10 to 15 minutes of incredibly intense rainfall. Rainfall rates over 3 inches an hour. I mean, it was just coming down in buckets, but a lot of wind associated with it, winds gusting up around 40 to 45. That combined with ponding probably contributed to some of what you were tracking.
Yeah, and then add in holiday travel, and it's like, whew, we're going to have a day. So that's how it felt today.
It's been a rough one this morning, but you actually mentioned during daybreak, motors actually adjusted and it wasn't quite as bad as maybe you were thinking.
Yeah, and even that doesn't shock me because holiday travel today really won't get going until about 3 p.m. So we'll see it pick up from 11 to 3, and then 3 p.m. it's like everyone's off work early and they are hitting the road as fast as they can. So
we want to get into the travel situation. We're going to talk local travel here. We'll break down the radar. We'll talk about some of the areas that maybe folks want to use extra caution with. But let's start off with the national travel impacts. And as we go to this map, Bethany, what I want to show folks this morning, we're looking at wet conditions, and I have the ability to zoom in here. You can see for Hampton Roads, this area all shaded in the red right here, and even a little area here in this magenta showing major impacts from those squalls earlier this morning. So up and down the Carolinas, all the way down into portions of Georgia, we have had very intense rainfall. There's some potential for severe weather, and you can see that heavy rain extends off to the north up through New York, Boston, these areas up here also under this. And if you keep looking farther to the north, would you believe it's not just rain, but they actually have impacts from snow as well. So, you know, we take a look at this area up into Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, those areas dealing with a significant amount of snow. Now, for us, just rain, but Bethany, what a mess early this morning.
Such a mess. I mean, one of the biggest things that we always look at when it comes to rain is kind of as the rain leaves the areas when we start to see the accidents, because now the ponding's happening. It's not when it's really coming down. And
people think, okay, you know, the rain's gone, now it's time to go, and they can get out there pretty quickly and have some issues. One of the other things we had reported on daybreak, and I thought this was great, I don't remember whether it was the National Transportation Board who put it out there, but they had mentioned with the leaves falling and the combination of the rain and the leaves, that creates issues.
And that's a stop time issue. So when you're trying to brake, if there are leaves on the ground, which in most areas right now there are, with that water on top, when you try to brake, your tires actually can't get traction on the road as easily because the leaves are wet, and that leaf is actually causing an issue in that traction. So you actually slide a bit further, making your stop time even longer. So when usually, okay, it takes 30 seconds to go from 30 miles an hour to this, it's now adding another 15 seconds and possibly a little skidding on the roadway as well.
It's comparable almost to like ice on the road.
Right.
So really an interesting thing and something that you may not consider. So if you see any leaves down on the road with the rain on top of it, assume it's going to be even more slick than normal. All right, we're going to go forward in time here. We'll take a look at our impacts. Here's a little bit of good news. You can see around midday, we do have some improvements coming. So while we still have some moderate impacts here for the Carolinas, you'll notice in Hampton Roads, yellow, minor impacts, so that is good news. The rain is going to become more showery. It won't be quite as widespread or as intense. Back up northern parts of Virginia, we still have some moderate impacts, and we could see a little bit more extending up into Maryland. So folks traveling up to D.C. or Charlottesville, Bethany, you were mentioning travel times. You know, there are going to be considerations people are going to have in other parts of the Commonwealth.
Especially if you're heading up that way. I know a lot of people around here head to Charlottesville, Richmond, D.C. So if you're heading coming up using 64 or 664 northbound, let's take a look at the traffic maps. These are your roadways you're going to use. 64 westbound at the HRBT. That's there on the far right of your screen. In the middle, 664 northbound is what you'll be using. That's the Monder-Merrimack Bridge Tunnel. And then to the far left over the water is US 17 at the JRB, or the James River Bridge. Now, the heavier area you're going to see today, the HRBT. So a lot of people will be taking 64 this morning. I expect heavy congestion to hit these 3 roadways really by about noon today, and it not let up until about 9 p.m. tonight. So that's going to be a heavy traveled area. And if you're heading down to North Carolina, or if you're heading a little further south, usually we see less traffic in terms of congestion in our area. That's when it's heavy. And it's a little heavier than you're used to, but it's not like you're at a standstill unless there's a crash. Standstills with congestion are going to happen at the HRBT today and the Monder-Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, without a doubt. There is a consideration heading south today, and I'm going to get into that when we talk about the severe weather threat. It still continues over eastern North Carolina. But look at the maps here. By late Wednesday, here's some good news, because Bethany, you mentioned traffic really picking up through the afternoon. Folks maybe having to put in a half day, the last day before Thanksgiving break. And if you're getting out, at least the weather for most of us will be more cooperative. So I did want to share that. Now I can expand the view, and we'll show you the rest of the country really looking pretty good as we go through tonight and early Thursday. Our weather much improved in Hampton Roads. I want to see what's going on there over the northern part of Virginia, and then we're going to take a look at this area off to the northwest in a moment. But you'll notice that there's still shaded in there. I'm wondering if that's maybe from fog or wind. Yeah, and that's it. Let's see if we go to rain. See? You take a look, rain's not an issue, but we do anticipate fog back up some of those mountain valleys that are so prone to fog. You know this, being from Goshen, Virginia, you can get some of those little valleys in between the mountains that you get that fog settling in. And this rain actually that some of them have seen is actually going to do a lot of help for them, because we also have been seeing wildfires in the area. So there's been a lot of smoke the last couple of days. So that fog, yes, that will definitely be a problem, but hopefully they'll see some relief with that smoke coming this week too. Yeah, that was a big story. We've had the wildfires up in the northwestern part of Virginia. Air quality up there has been a concern as that smoke finds its way through some of those valleys. The rain that we've gotten is beneficial. I think they could even use a little bit more up that way. All right, I do want to go back to the map and talk to you about this system here in the northwest. And as I put all of our considerations back on there, you'll notice moderate to major. This is midday Thanksgiving, Wyoming, Jackson Hole. You think, uh-oh, this isn't good. Or is it? Check it out. This is due to snow. And for the ski resorts, it's going to be a good day. Yeah, they'll take this. They need the snow over the mountains, and as long as, you know, it doesn't mess up travel too much, little early season snow really are typically welcome, because that snowpack is where they get a lot of their water, parts of the mountainous areas out west. They need that snowpack in the winter. All right, so that's looking ahead through midday tomorrow. Later in the day on Thursday, we're still looking at pretty good conditions around here, and into early Friday for Black Friday, things are looking good as well. At the oceanfront, Bethany, we've got the wet conditions, and it's been a little windier out on the water. We actually have gale warnings up this morning for our coastal waters. Let's talk about the forecast today, and I want to get your thoughts on how this impacts traffic here locally. So this is for Hampton Roads. You see the rain chances on this graphic, like 80%. And it doesn't mean just nonstop blanketing rain, but we're going to see periods of rain off and on, certainly through the midday and then into the afternoon, showery. But you're saying that's when a lot of folks are, again, going to be hitting our local roads. Right. So I would say 11 is when, you know, people who have already taken today off are going to start getting out on the roads a little earlier. And then 3 p.m., you'll see those people that worked half days and got the kids in the car and started getting on the roads. And then from 3 p.m. till about 9 p.m. today, it is just going to be nonstop on our roadways. Now, when it comes to this forecast, the thing I get worried about is not that it's going to be, you know, a rainy situation, but that people may get too comfortable when the showers are light. Right. So if you're seeing drop your guard a little bit, that's you get comfortable, and we've seen showers all day, so the roads are already gathering that water, and people are like, oh, it's not that bad. You get on your phone, you take one hand off the wheel, you put the cruise control on, you hit one puddle, and you are going to hydroplane, hopefully, not terribly if you're focused, but if you need to stay focused, I mean, you're already probably got a lot of distractions in the car. You're thinking about what you need to get ready for Thanksgiving. The kids are screaming in the back.
That never happens.
So it's just one of those things that even though the showers may get lighter or in some parts see less, still going to be wet and dangerous.
Yeah, it is something you certainly want to consider. And, you know, Bethany, you are an anchor, you've been a producer, you've done all this stuff, but the amount of time that you've been covering traffic, you've seen a lot of these stories kind of unfold. I thought a couple of the points that you were making just so spot on, especially when you consider the wet conditions. And there are so many, you don't want to say just self-driving cars, but cars that are getting smarter and smarter, and it's easy to get lazier as a commuter. I think we're all a little guilty of relying on maybe lane assist or whatever. Those things don't always react perfectly when these conditions develop.
No, and I was going to mention, you mentioned lane assist. I love the lane assist in my car. You know, you put that on, if you swerve over a little bit, it brings you back.
Yeah, a little bit of torque on the wheel.
In a day like today, it's going to do you no good. Because if that car shifts over, and let's say usually in the lanes, that's where we see that ponding, where you have those lines where they've built in the paint there, that's where the water gathers. So let's say you do shift over and your car kind of panics and readjusts you could hit a puddle just by the car's fault in itself. So this needs to be a day where you are the only one in control of your vehicle.
And we're not trying to paint this as commute-ageddon or anything like that. But one other thing to think about here, Bethany, we were dry for the past 3 weeks. Norfolk has had just barely any rain at all for the month of November. Yesterday we got about 1,500 at the airport. Today, this morning, we had some more significant rain. When you have cars dropping motor oil and other fluids and stuff like that on the roads for weeks on end, and then you get some rain on top of it, that too can compound the slickness. So again, these are all just contributing factors to drive home the points that Bethany's making. Just have to stay on the A game.
Just stay on your A game, be ready, pack the coffee, have everything you need in the car.
Patience, coffee,
Patience, coffee, maybe a tablet for the kiddos. Just make sure that you have everything you need to control your own vehicle today.
Are you ready for the payoff?
Sure.
All right, let's take a look at the payoff. Here we go, our Thanksgiving Day dry and cooler. So whether you are hosting people to your home here in Hampton Roads, or if you're traveling out anywhere around the mid-Atlantic, we should have beautiful weather. Really, most of the eastern seaboard up and down the East Coast, things are looking good. A good chunk of the country in great shape. We mentioned that snow out to the west, but it looks like it's going to be a beautiful Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, you know what this forecast gives me? After your dinner, football with the family vibes, you're outside throwing around.
We've got neighbors that we are getting together for a football game before. Everybody brings out kind of breakfast hors d'oeuvres and some fun stuff. We all play, and then we're going to, we'll all get our meals later in the day. So we'll see how I'm feeling after the weekend, after getting out playing a little bit of football. But it's going to be great. We've got great NFL games, lots of good stuff. So Bethany, to you and to your family, you going back home, right?
Going back home.
All right, going to Goshen. I'm actually hosting my kids and girlfriends, and everybody's coming in. So we're super excited. We're hoping you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And again, travel safely.
Just be safe. Happy Thanksgiving.